engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Nice to be in orbit.
Ladies and gentlemen, what is happening? Welcome to another episode of the What is Happening podcast. I am your host, Nick. It is great to be back with you. Man, it's been amazing. How are you guys doing? It's been a couple of weeks since we've spoken. There's so much going on in the world. I cannot wait to share it with you all. How are you all doing? Man, this weather has been crazy that we've been having. It's been ice storms all over the place. It's been just unbelievable. But I think we're starting to come out of it now. I don't know where you are, but where I am sitting right now looks like we're coming out of it, which is a good thing. So I'm glad about that. I'm a big fan of warm weather. I love the warm weather. How about yourself? I can do warm weather 365 days a year. I love it that much. Anyhow, nevertheless, let's not focus on the weather right now. What is going on in the world? There's so much happening. There's so much happening in Washington, D.C., New York City, all over the world. So much to talk about with you. As always, if you like this podcast, please subscribe, tell your friends. I am on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. Soon to be uploading videos soon. In the works right now for that, which is a good thing. Always looking to expand. I'm getting a lot of great feedback from you all. So working on some video content to put somewhere. Details for that at a later show. But for now, we have a lot to talk about. Want to get to it right away? Please comment, leave a review, tell your friends like I asked. This podcast is growing, having so much fun with it. Yes, of course, I am not at the levels of Joe Rogan, who I love, but we're having fun, and that's the most important part about this. We are having fun. So, this week, let's get this show started, shall we? So, as you know, New York City elected a new mayor this year. Well, actually last year, but he started this year. Eric Adams is the new mayor of New York City. Now, anything can be better than the disaster that was Bill de Blasio. Okay? Anything can be better than that. Unfortunately, I think New York City is going to be stuck with another problem mayor. Okay? Another problem mayor. So recently, Mr. Mayor Adams said that he's going to be dealing with crime in the subway system by deploying mental health professionals. He's saying that he's going to roll out a real plan. They're going to address the crime that's in the city. One of the things that he's saying is that, they're going to deal with subway crime. And how are they going to deal with subway crime? Well, he says that he's going to flood the system with mental health professionals in the subway system, okay? And he thinks that that's going to be able to reduce crime in the subway system, okay? I don't know about that. I'm not sure if that's going to really work in our subway system. I don't know if any of you ever been to New York City and have seen the disaster that is crime that's in the subway systems. It's disgusting. But nevertheless, he's saying that he's going to do this by reducing. He's going to reduce crime by putting out these mental health professionals. Unfortunately, I think we're in another problem here with this guy. I do not think this is going to work. New York City is flooded with a bunch of crazies. And I don't think a mental health professional is the solution to this, right? He's saying they're going to partner with police and they're going to be very proactive in this. Now, let's not forget that you can't be proactive in the city, because if you're proactive in the city against a certain group of people, you may be considered racist. You may be considered, they may even consider you part of the problem. Okay? I don't know. But I just know that this is not a good way to go about this. Okay? You have crime in the city that has gotten worse over the last 6-7 years. Okay? Mental health professionals are not the solution here. Maybe after the fact, after they get arrested, maybe they can talk to a mental health professional, but not now. Okay? So already he hasn't even been in office a couple of months now, and we've got problems here with this guy. I don't know. What do you think? You think it's going to work with the mental health professionals? Let me know what you think. This story with CNN, this whole thing that's been happening, we had talked a lot about this on previous episodes with, Chris Cuomo, his brother, Andrew, the former governor, what was going on there. I mean, I made my viewpoint clear on the both of them, that I was not a fan of the Cuomo brothers, and I thought that they were just a bunch of frat boys, white privileged kind of guys, pretty much got away with everything their whole lives, right? Dad was the former governor of New York, ran for president, the whole thing. Never liked the two of them. Well, this story at CNN is getting worse and worse by the day. Recently, Jeff Zucker, who's the head of CNN, stepped down, citing a relationship that he recently disclosed that was very problematic. Very problematic. And the story just intertwines everything with the Cuomos and so on. Anyhow, Allison Gollust, she's an executive vice president at CNN. She's known Zucker for about 20 years. And they are in a relationship, okay? Consenting relationship. However, there's problems here. Number one, she reports into Mr. Zucker. Most of you that listen to this program work in corporate America or anywhere where you may work. An employee reporting to a boss, it's inappropriate to be in a romantic relationship with that person. Okay? So Allison Gollust was in a relationship with Zucker. He cited it recently, and of course he had to step down as a result of it. However, there's more to this story. She used to actually work for the governor. Okay? She was an aide to the governor. Now, let's not forget, the governor's brother, Chris Cuomo, worked at CNN. Andrew Cuomo was going through a lot of problems last year when it came to nursing home deaths, when it came to the sexual assault allegations against him, sexual misconduct, the whole thing. Well, it turns out now that Zucker and Gollust, the two Cuomo brothers, were in constant communication to protect the governor. Constant communication to protect the governor. Completely inappropriate. Not just the fact that they're trying to protect this guy, okay, but the fact that they are a media organization and were helping to write talking points that he could use when he was out there defending himself. They were also involved in getting the governor on Chris Cuomo's show, giving him and putting him in a positive light. Remember the two Cuomo brothers nightly meeting? Remember all that? The joking around and all that kind of stuff? If you don't remember it, let me just give you a little slight reminder of it.
Video come out before we go to break where you wanted to encourage people to get tested, and some people are afraid it's going to hurt. So you had video of it that I want to show the audience of you actually getting tested. Here it is. There's you were kind of funny, and they were testing you. Now, a few questions about this process. First of all, is it true that when you were having the test administered, you inhaled and the doctor's finger went all the way up your nose and got stuck and had to be released with a tool? Is that true? Just to deal with the record.
She wanted to comment that I have a little button nose, and she was afraid that the swab would actually hurt because it extended my nasal cavity.
The proboscis
she was
issue.
Speaking about the delicacy of
the nose. And that's what, you know what, I understand. This is the normal swab I'm holding up here now for everybody at home. A very valuable object. There's only one company in the entire country that makes these up in Maine. All right, here's the swab. Is it true that this was the swab that the nurse was actually using on you, and that at first it went into your nose and disappeared, so that in scale, this was the actual swab that was being used to fit up that double-barrel shotgun that you have mounted on the front of your pretty face?
Just listening to that, I mean, it's cringeworthy listening to that. Okay, it's cringeworthy. Watching it is even worse, but listening to it is cringeworthy. These two idiots were doing this on a nightly basis. Well, now we know that it was all staged. Zucker was involved. The girlfriend was involved. Everyone was involved. This is why people have lost faith and trust in mainstream legacy media. This is ridiculous. The story with Zucker gets even worse. Okay? Well, it turns out the girlfriend, Allison, had an apartment right above his in a fancy apartment building in New York City. Now, it's an apartment building that really caters to the ultra-rich. You know, Zucker, head of CNN, he's making a good sum of money. But Allison is not at the level he is in terms of compensation, okay? She's chief marketing officer, okay? She's not pulling in the kind of money that he's pulling in, okay? So there's a whole stuff that's going on here. Now, this story with Zucker gets worse and worse and worse the more you read about it. Now, I've been staying on top of it. And, again, I've never liked the Cuomos. I never liked his dad. I mean, I think that they were bad politics, But I think all of this is it's cringe. And Chris Cuomo, that righteous piece of garbage that he is, okay? He's a righteous piece of garbage. Going on nightly about how people should get vaccinated and all that, and all the nonsense that he went through with, getting COVID, faking, that he was, in the basement the whole time when it turns out that wasn't true, walking around his apartment building without a mask, right? Getting yelled at by his, by the fellow owners in the building. And him saying, it doesn't really matter. I could do what I want. I mean, this guy is cringe. Don't like the guy. And all of this now is just, not only is a big slap in the face to the Cuomo brothers, who are just the lowest of the low, but CNN, my goodness. Do you remember CNN? When it first came out back many, many years ago? This is CNN, right? I mean, all that. People used to just turn on CNN, get the news. Now, you've got Chris Cuomo, you've got Don Lemon, whatever the hell his name is, Brian Stelter. You know what I mean? It's this cringe stuff. These people, you watch 10 seconds of the news program and it's horrible. So that's Zucker. He's gone now. Now, of course, he'll survive somewhere. Some other network will pick it up and do everything that they have to do with him, pay him millions, right? And it'll be the same nonsense all over again. He'll destroy another network. But I, for one, am not sad in seeing the downfall of CNN, seeing the downfall of the Cuomo brothers. I generally don't like to, wish bad upon people. But these people are they're the lowest of the low. Lowest of the low, these people. What do you think? You glad about all this? I mean, it's like you can't even write the script. You can't even write it. But anyway, so long Zucker, so long Cuomo's, so long CNN. Dementia Joe, up to his normal tricks as always. It's no secret I don't like this man. It's no secret I think he is cognitively impaired. It's no secret I think he's the worst president in the history of this country. He's a criminal. His family is a criminal. The way he got elected, I do not believe was fair. That being said, he is the president, and he has the job. But as always, the media in this country, they take sides. They like to pit people against one another. When Trump was president, they went after him constantly. Every little thing he said, they went after him. And there was no secret that Trump was not a big fan of the media. And sure enough, whenever Trump would say something to the media or call them out, the media used to jump up and down and scream that they were in danger because of the rhetoric of the president. They were put in a place where people would harm them because of the rhetoric of the former president. Well, Dementia Joe is up to his old tricks, as always. He does not know where he is. He does not know who he is. But yet the media covers for this guy. Here's a little exchange that happened recently. Biden was having I don't want to call it a press conference, but there were a number of people there on his staff. And sure enough, Peter Doocy from Fox News, after the White House staff dismissed the reporters so Biden could continue to have his sham meeting or whatever it was. So Peter Doocy decided to call out a question as they were being let out of the room. Now, you're probably not going to be able to hear the question on this audio, but let's just say that Peter Doocy screamed out something regarding inflation. And then you're going to hear Dementia Joe's response, not realizing that he was on a hot mic, which was picking up every word he said. So check this out.
The only reason I don't like doing this is you never report on why I've called a meeting. And this is really important. I had a very, very, very good meeting, total unanimity with all the European leaders. We'll talk about it later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Why are you saying anyone having to be right now? Will you take President on inflation back? Do you think inflation is a political liability?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a bitch.
So there you go. Basically what Doocy yelled out, the question was, do you think inflation is going to be a political liability? It's a fair question. Inflation is through the roof right now in the U.S. Latest numbers that came out were at 7.5% annualized. year over year, the worst inflation we've seen in 40 years. So it's a legitimate question. Ducey calls out and says, is it a political liability? Of course, Dementia Joe, not realizing the mic is on because he's cognitively impaired, says, what a stupid son of a bee. Let's just go back a couple of years and let's replace Biden with President Trump. And let's see the reaction that the media would have if Trump had said that. What would be going on right now on every front page of every newspaper, of every lead story in the lamestream media? What would be going on? Trump, bad words, calling the SOB, and all this kind of stuff. Remember when Trump called out a couple of the NFL players for being, sons of bitches? Remember that? Because of, the NFL players were taking the knee and all that. Oh, right away. Calling them the B word. It's racist. It's all that. Joe Biden says it, and there's nothing. Only some of the outlets on the right did address it. But again, remember, the media is controlled, and Hollywood is controlled by people on the far left. No reaction whatsoever to this. No reaction whatsoever. Now, double standard? I think so. But this is what goes on in this country. Now, obviously, I'm playing you the audio to it, but when you look at the video, even Biden himself he's lost. This man is lost. It's a national security threat to this country. But again, I repeat, what would the reaction be if the person who said that had a last name of Donald Trump? I've said it many times before, and I will say it again, that the true racists in this country are those that are on the left of the political spectrum. Democrats, people on the far left, are the racists. And here's why I mean that. I don't like to talk much about this show because they are five idiots who really know nothing. It's more of an entertainment show than anything else, but it's horrible entertainment. The View. Those five idiots on that show. So recently, Stephen Breyer on the Supreme Court, Justice Breyer, announced that he's stepping down and he's going to retire after many, many years on the Supreme Court. Of course, Dementia Joe comes out and is talking about replacing Breyer with the first female black justice. Comes out and he makes this statement.
I will select a nominee worthy of Justice Breyer's legacy of excellence and decency. The person I will nominate will be someone with extraordinary qualifications, character, experience, and integrity. And that person will be the first black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court.
There are so many things wrong with what he just said. Not wrong as right and wrong, right and incorrect. It was just, think about what he just said there. Extraordinary qualifications and all that. However, it's going to be the first black woman. So you basically, first of all, eliminated, how many different ethnic groups in this country. What, you can't have the first Asian woman? How about the first woman, who's Middle Eastern? Right? How about that? But anyhow, the idiots on The View decided they were going to weigh in on this topic. Take a listen.
This is happening in a time where we can get another liberal. And of course, the representation more than anything, you pointed out, first black woman, there's only been 2 black men. And those numbers are a little shocking.
And one doesn't really represent the black community.
I always feel like that particular branch of government is so anti-democracy that somebody like Amy Coney Barrett was put in there because she's a white woman who they say, well, she'll go against abortion rights, and she's a woman. So that was deliberate, I think.
I listened to those ladies on The View, and I think I lose brain cells as I listen to them. First of all, Sunny Hostin saying that Clarence Thomas, a distinguished Supreme Court justice, take a look at his life and his history. Much more distinguished than you, Sonny, okay? He doesn't represent the black community. Who made you the person who decides who represents the black community? And you've got Joy Behar, okay, and Sarah Hines sitting there agreeing. Like, wait a minute. Last time I checked, neither one of you were black. But yet you're going to sit there and say that Clarence Thomas doesn't represent the black community? And then what's Joy Behar saying, about Amy Coney Barrett? I mean, some of the things she says, it just doesn't even... I sit there and try and make sense of it all, but the woman she's a moron. She is a flat-out moron, okay? But for them to sit there and say that Clarence Thomas does not represent the black community, I don't know how much more racist you get than that. What happens if I would sit there and say, I don't think LeBron James represents the black community. I don't think Barack Obama represents the black community. What would happen to me? Some of the things that'd be said against me. Racist. Immediately. But yet for Sunny Hostin to sit there and say he doesn't represent the black community, who are you to determine that, Sonny? Take a look at his life, Sonny. Take a look at Clarence Thomas's life. Okay? Where he came from. A small town called Pinpoint, Georgia. Second of 3 children. His father was a farm worker. His parents were direct descendants of slaves. Okay? That doesn't represent the black community. Went to Holy Cross College. Founded the Black Student Union. Went on to Yale Law School. Doesn't represent the black community. Okay? You tell me, Sonny. You tell me what you feel as though represents the black community. Because I think Clarence Thomas represents the black community very well. And I'm not black. But I look at him as someone that people can look up to. And where he came from in life and where he is now. But you don't think he represents the black community. That's racist. That's racist. If a white person ever said that, if a white person on the right ever said that to about a black person on the left, what would happen? But of course, the low IQ people on The View seem to get away with this stuff. And it happens constantly. Constantly. And I'm tired of it. Sticking with the low IQ of the idiots on The View, I mean, the Clarence Thomas thing is one thing, but now, Whoopi Goldberg, they were discussing let me just preface this by saying I don't watch The View. I just read the stories, and then I go back to the video and find out what's going on. So they were discussing something recently on the View, okay? and the Holocaust topic came up. And this is the genius that she is, Whoopi Goldberg, with her viewpoint on the Holocaust.
Let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust isn't about race. It's about man's inhumanity to man.
I'm not even sure where to begin with that one. Okay. The bottom line is the Holocaust was about race. Okay. Read history. Hitler said that the Jews were a different race. Okay, I mean, we can just go into the history of all this, but, I just need to talk about this story. You do your own research, but yes, the Holocaust was about race. So, of course, the uproar started, and to the credit of some of the other idiots on The View, they kind of called her out on the desk and so on. Well, then Whoopi decided that she needed to do a mea culpa because, her publicists, the network probably said something and all that. And they saw that, we're getting some negative backlash here. We have to now go and fix this. She decides that she's going to go to her buddy Stephen Colbert, go on a show at night to do the mea culpa. This is what the idiot says.
I feel being black, when we talk about race, it's a very different thing to me. Mm-hmm. So I said that I felt that the Holocaust wasn't about race. Mm-hmm. This wasn't based on the skin. You couldn't tell who was Jewish. Mm-hmm. They had to delve deeply to figure it out. If the Klan is coming down the street, mm-hmm. and I'm standing with a Jewish friend and neither one, I'm going to run. But if my friend decides not to run, they'll get passed by most times because you can't tell who's Jewish.
Okay, that didn't go over well, okay, because I think the apology was even worse than what she said. Well, maybe it wasn't worse, but it was just not good. Well, then she goes back on the show the next day and decides she's going to try and, quote unquote, clean it up even more.
It is indeed about race, because Hitler and the Nazis considered Jews to be an inferior race. Now, words matter, and mine are no exception. I regret my comments, as I said, and I stand corrected. I also stand with the Jewish people, as they know, and y'all know, because I've always done that.
Obviously, you can tell she was reading from a pre-written statement that was made for her, probably by the PR department at ABC. Well, of course, she got suspended for 2 weeks without pay. I mean, let's face it, she's making $5 million a year. 2 week suspension for her is not going to be that big of a deal. Stories have said that she's very pissed that she got suspended and all this kind of stuff, but I mean, we won't go into that. Big deal. It was just, it's a big show right now, okay? It's all for show that they're doing this. Whoopi Goldberg is a moron. The ladies on The View are morons, okay? I just want to again point out what would have happened if this was someone on either Newsmax or Fox News or any person on the right side of the political spectrum had said something like this. What would happen? Okay? What would happen? The front page, New York Times, front page, Washington Post, the lead story on every stupid news network, CNN and all those, right? This is what would happen. Now, I don't believe in the cancel culture, right? All I'm doing is I'm pointing out the hypocrisy of it all, right? Hypocrisy of it all. And those ladies on The View are just idiots, okay? They are morons. I don't watch the show, but, you know, for the podcast, I try and get stories where I think you'd be interested in, because, you know, you do reach out to me and you say, hey, why not talk about this? So I do. So it's cringeworthy to have to actually listen to it. But what would have happened if Whoopi Goldberg was on the right and she said this? Where would things be right now? Folks, this is the hypocrisy that goes on in the media, and it happens all the time. And finally, I'm not a big NFL fan. I do like sports. I haven't really watched the NFL much since they've gone woke. But you know, the Washington former team called Washington Redskins, you know, they changed their name the last couple of years to the Washington football team. Well, they finally have settled on a new name. It's no longer the Redskins, no longer Washington football team. Now it's the Washington Commanders. Okay? The Washington Commanders. How do you feel about that? Me? I don't care. I don't care. Washington Commanders, Washington Redskins, Washington football team. They stink anyway. But of course, you know, the cancel culture, the crazy leftists, they had to get everything politically correct. They had to get away from the Native American reference of Redskins because it was insulting. Folks, this is just the beginning. Atlanta Braves are going to be next. They're going to come after the college team, the Seminoles. This is not going to end. This is just the beginning. It will continue to happen. This is why I get sick of all this nonsense. I just want things to be normal and not politically correct all the time. If you're a Washington's fan, a Washington football's fan, a Commanders fan now, fantastic. Congratulations to you. Your team still stinks, okay? But at least you have now the perfect politically correct name. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining me for another episode of the What Is Happening podcast. I very much appreciate you joining in every week. We have such great topics that we talk about. I do appreciate you all following this podcast. Please follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter. Please tell your friends. Subscribe. Leave a comment. It's very helpful for me, very helpful for the show. You've been giving me such great feedback. I'm very appreciative to all of you for joining on a weekly basis. I will be back next week with some great stories, some great topics to talk about. I wish you all a great week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.